Yeah, what? You're watching and you're listening to The Week in Review, doping some news and dropping the jewels. Sit back, relax, and press play on the tube and catch up in the feud, cause this brother is smooth. Your weekly wrap up on celebs and stars, or chicks in World Star and they panties and bras. From the Widen Bazaar to a Cuban cigar, geeks at Comic Cons to the tech in your car, we got it all. Comment, like, share, and subscribe. Killer content and the beats he provide. VALA, dope by design.
Yeah, y'all. Late LK at OneYoungsta holding that down, bringing the expectation for years. Nah, it's been a while, but we are back. This is What Had Happened Was. I am NERDSoul. That's right, NERDSoul in the house. But I'm joined by KAIZER.
Yo, what up?
And we've been going for a while. We're gonna play some games real quick.
Yeah.
But we wanted to talk about, of course, what's going on now with protests, with uprisings, with defunding the police, and all of this stuff centering around the safety of being African American
right
in America.
Mm-hmm.
And we wanted to talk about, most specifically, African Americans and guns.
Yeah.
But I'll let KAIZER kick this off.
Me and you have had the discussion many times about gun ownership and like kind of like how we both felt about things, which we'll get into later. But in light of what's been happening for the last, what's been happening since forever, since we've been talking about it, but in this day and time of like technology and the information age and whatever, and the consistency of what it seems like of like black killings at the hands of either the police or self-proclaimed like vigilantes or whatever, basically hunting down innocent African Americans, or even if they weren't innocent, for non-violent offenses, and having very extremely violent actions taken, upon them. It has basically put us both in the place of thinking about upholding our rights and taking on some gun ownership.
Yep. I remember there was the president had a rally, and I can't remember where he was, but people were chanting like shoot him or something like that, and they were like chanting and cheering about it.
I remember that one.
And I remember calling you and being like, it might be about time.
This was early in his presidency, because I remember something along the lines of talking about the police, and he was like, maybe you should not be so nice. And then somebody yelled out, like, shoot him. He was like,
you can rough them up a little bit if you want, or whatever, something like that.
He's like, don't be so nice about putting their head in the car, like that shit. And I was like,
And I just remember hitting you up after seeing that rally and seeing how all those people were like so charged up for definitely breaking the law. And of course, focusing their violence towards black faces or African Americans.
Right.
I was like, yeah, maybe it's about time to look at some guns. Mm-hmm. Maybe it's about that time, because these folks about to get crazy.
Yeah.
And I ain't got time for it.
And I want to make a statement about the news media consistently calling the protests the George Floyd protests. These are not the George Floyd protests. Do not get this twisted. He just happens to be one of the many broken straws of frustration that we have felt throughout our community for years, through generations of mass systemic racism. And the fact that it's been televised and shown so much, and it's taken so much time to prosecute the police who were involved in his murder, and having justice served after we have evidence on evidence on evidence. And then you talking about how you got to go into investigation. It's like, what? either way, or these are not George Floyd protests. These is just protests for some type of equality, some type of equity, and some type of reform on getting systemic racism out of policing in our communities.
And the main thing is like, we know we ain't, our parents tried to fix your hearts. We know that ain't gonna work. We don't even care.
Right.
We're trying to defund the police and stop the police unions, like completely abolish police unions and get rid of, qualified immunity. Because we know we ain't gonna stop racism. Y'all always gonna hate us. But if we can take away your protections, then when you kill us, the same consequences come to you as with anyone else, even though they should be steeper since you are a sworn officer. For instance, if there's a doctor that is just killing people, if we find out a doctor is just killing,
loses his license, you go to jail.
A whole bunch of Hawaiian people, they're gonna be like, "Yo, man, this doctor gotta go."
Right.
But somehow, whenever something is focused against African Americans in this country, people find ways to excuse it. People find ways to look over it or look past it. And now we're done with looking over it, looking past it. George Floyd, this is not a George Floyd protest.
No.
This is a African American freedom protest.
Talk about it.
On the backs of everyone that fought and wasn't able to get everything they wanted during the civil rights.
And this is only one pillar.
We're done.
This is only one of many facets of systemic racism. Policing ain't the only thing.
Right now we are fighting the law enforcement arm of white supremacy.
Right.
We'll deal with everything, but right now we're dealing with that because that's immediate.
Yeah.
And this isn't George Floyd protests. We love George Floyd.
Right.
We miss George Floyd. But seeing George Floyd was only a tipping point for the buildup of what we have seen most recently. I'd say probably starting with Ahmaud Arbery, then Breonna Taylor, then George Floyd. Then it was just like, all right, Ahmaud Arbery, he was out there jogging. Breonna Taylor was asleep
in her
own bed.
Yep.
And then George Floyd was just, you could see between the footage of the people there and the security footage from like the building.
Yeah, the street
dude
cam.
was just like walking around.
he was like in his car.
Alive.
And then they arrested him. Yeah, it was, come on, man.
So people are done. Ever since we were able to see black bodies on film being broken in this way, since probably Rodney King, this is what it's up to. Not saying that Rodney King was the first, meaning Rodney King was the first time we had it on TV,
on film,
to show white people, look, it's real. We're not lying about it. This is what's happening. And ever since then, it's been building up, because before then, we didn't have the video proof.
No.
It was just, they were like, oh, well, we don't know. We haven't seen it. And now, ever since we've had proof, we now have not only the anger and frustration and pain and hurt of it happening in the dark, but now we have that same pain and frustration and emotion multiplied by the fact that we now have proof in front of you, and you're doing these verbal gymnastics and these slippery conversations that really just say we don't care.
It's crazy how we get so much evidence on these cases, not to drag us out too much, but we get so much evidence where there's like different camera views and angles and everything, and they got to go into investigation. But the minute that role is reversed, and it is a guilty black man in what could be like a quasi non-violent crime against, like, say, a white female, like, that joint is definite. Like, there's little to no investigation. It's like, I saw you on camera pass the white girl on the sidewalk, nigga, you did it. It's like, wow, that was a quick investigation. But
only for that same white woman to come out like a month or two later, and I can't remember who did it recently, but only to come around like at the end of the weekend, being like, oh yeah, I lied.
Right.
Or it can be after they've been in jail for like 10 plus years or something. Yeah. And be like, oh yeah, I lied.
So if that isn't obvious, I want to point some people to some more material in NERDSoul. I'll hit you with the links later so you can put it down in the description.
All right.
But the NPR has many different podcasts. But one in particular I thought was incredibly great. They had a special guest speaker on. His name is Professor Khalil Gibran Muhammad. He teaches at Harvard. He teaches history, race, public policy, and law. And the episode is on their NPR's Throughline podcast, which you can catch on Google Podcasts, Apple, and all that stuff. But this episode is called American Police. And he goes through the history of the formation of basically what the police are today, and then their origins from back just after slavery days in the South, and when people started immigrating in the North, and how those two factions between the South and the North came together state by state, on a federal level to form the police we have today, and how racism and classism meets to form the police that we know today, and how it wasn't necessarily built in our favor. Speaking of African Americans in general, but
because there's literal documents written by like governors and mayors and stuff of the South during Reconstruction, being like, all right, check it, we still have a way to keep these black people in line.
Correct.
You know what I'm saying? We still have a way.
Yeah, and I knew about the beginnings of the South,
policing.
And them having the slave patrol, and actually, like, I guess kind of contracting out the Ku Klux Klan and the forming of the Ku Klux Klan as a part of this policing. So it's built into the history. So
yeah, it's been baked in since day one.
Yeah. So
and that's why like people are like, look, we're never going to clean. You can't reform something that is tarnished and poisoned from the root. You can't just keep trimming the leaves and the branches. The root itself is poisonous.
Yeah.
So either A, we get rid of the tree. I doubt seriously that we can ever get rid of the tree. No. But what we can do is defund this tree so that the tree isn't as large as a redwood. We can defund it down to a rose bush.
When you talk about,
you know what I'm saying?
And like, you got to explain defund too, because I think a lot of people, when they hear defund, and it hasn't been explained thoroughly to a lot of people. All right, they think we want to strip it down to zero. But go ahead, my bro.
Yeah, so defund, to fund is to, fund something, put money into. Defund it is to take money out of. So what we're saying is police in most cities get the large lump sum of the city's budget every year. What people are saying is take, say, 40 to 50 to 60% of the budget that police get, take that from policing and put that into non-weaponized forces that can handle non-violent calls or can handle mental illness related calls and things like that. For instance, if someone has a noise complaint, there is no reason for someone with a gun to show up.
Correct.
If someone has a complaint of someone selling water outside of their door, there's no reason for someone with a gun to show up. If someone calls because their son or daughter who has struggles mentally, is having problems or having seizures or even having an episode or event in their home, there is no reason for someone with a gun to show up.
Right.
So that's what people are saying. And many of their budgets, many of the proposed budgets and the proposed percentages have been posted online for people to see. What you get now a lot in the in traditional media, instead of like black media like this or like anyone else that you might find online or whatever, what you'll see is a whole bunch of like willful ignorance, like people acting like they don't know what it means when it's been, described and posted online of what people expect, moving things towards homeless services, mental services, towards schools. Schools have had, think of how long teachers have had to put their own money into supplies for either themselves or their students, while police get tons of money to shoot and kill people in those communities.
Yeah.
Like, let's stop fronting. You know what I'm saying? And one of the funniest memes is like a police officer crying about, getting funds cut, and there's a teacher looking at him like, interesting. So it's like y'all been cutting school budgets for years, so much that in recent history, in the recent 5 to 10 years, there have been numerous teacher strikes across the nation. Most notably, I think the one in West Virginia that actually went, I think if they held out a little longer, they would have gotten everything they wanted.
Right.
But I also know that they cared about those kids, you know what I'm saying? But there was a strike, I believe in West Virginia, that actually, they were actually hurting them, because people don't realize that we're all connected. If teachers ain't there, kids can't go to school. Kids can't go to school, they gotta stay home. If people ain't got no babysitter, guess what? People gotta stay home. That means they can't go to work. That means the people that got the jobs, the managers, the people, the owners, guess what? They can't make no money because they ain't got no employees because they ain't there. So all of this is connected. But back to the defund the police, that's what they want.
Right.
People want the money that is for the city to be for the city.
Correct.
See, right now, the money that is for the city is being used in a department that's completely built and designed to punish the city and nothing else. You have to use this money, if it's for the city, for more than just punishment.
And to double down on that, I did have some numbers up, but to put it in a more general sense, I advise everybody to, whatever city you're in, Blue Leaks got information out there. If you don't know about the Blue Leaks, it's when Anonymous basically hacked a whole bunch of police officers across the country and like just kind of like leaked a lot of their internal documents and whatever. But even in the regular news media outlets, they have posted their budgets for all these individual police departments, and these police departments' budgets are in like high billions. Like, I mean, I was thinking maybe like a couple $100 million. Nah, bruh. They broke the Billy mark like nothing you've ever seen. Please research whatever area you're in. I know LAPD had like crazy amount of money, and it got slashed by like, I don't know, like 2%, and people's in an uproar. But and they were just gonna put that like in like after school programs and stuff like that, and police was like hella mad about that joint. But a lot of this money goes into like military buyback for like military vehicles, military equipment that, you know, the military, either it's outdated for them because they got the newest, latest stuff to defend the homeland, and then so whatever their most prominent weapons were, like whatever the latest like M4 was last year, you know, certain police departments get that, and they have a budget set in for that. Not only that, they also have the budget set in for training that isn't necessarily like state mandated, and a lot of these trainings continually enforce operating off of or reacting out of fear. So meaning like they always like regurgitate the terms like, you're gonna go home tonight, as if they're going out into a war zone, where I've seen videos of Marines and other Army personnel watch like body cam footage and them going into like a domestic home, or reading the reports of them going into a domestic home and responding to a call, and I was like, why would they escalate that? This is a guy who's a Marine who's trained to go out in actual war zones where people are actually out to kill you in terrain he's unfamiliar with, right? And they're trained to not escalate unless you know for sure. Like, your weapon is not drawn unless for sure that is a threat and I need to put it down. Where police just act off fear, like, oh, he's got a lollipop, pop, pop, pop. You know what I'm saying? Like, they are trained to act off of fear, and a lot of our money goes to them. Just to put that in perspective. But I definitely...
So that's the crux of the whole defund argument, which is, which is valid and it's necessary. Also, another part of the defund movement is also changing the length of the academy. People are asking for
triple
the academy to either be 2 or a 4-year program. Because another thing is, if you look at, let me see if I can pull up
like Eastern European countries. I think is it Denmark? They have to spend like 2 years in training before they can become like a full-fledged like patrolman, policeman.
Yeah,
2 years.
So for instance, right now, if you're selected for LAPD, you will be sent to the LAPD Academy for 6 months of training. 6 months from a complete citizen that knows nothing to being able to walk around with a gun, with the license to kill, essentially, because you're covered by qualified immunity.
And I've seen a couple videos where they explain the training, and a small percentage of that training isn't even about the law, which means these guys are not even being trained on the law they're supposed to be enforcing.
Yeah, they don't even know what they're doing. And this is not to go on the training argument, because I have a hard line down on the training argument.
Yeah.
You don't need to be trained not to kill African American or black people.
That's because they're trained to kill.
To do that. So what we're talking about is escalation and de-escalation. Like,
that's not taught.
At the least, your training in any academy for police should be 2 years at the very least. I would even push a little further into 2.5 to 3 years. You can't tell someone who practices law that they got to go to school for like 8 years, but then someone to enforce the law, they can do it in 6 months. Like, come on, B.
You got to have associates level.
It don't make dollars a cent.
You got to
come on, man.
You got to have an associate's level degree to enforce the law. And there should be a license too. So like every year or every 2 years, you gotta retake some tests. I don't know if there's any tests or like certifications put in place where they've got to pass a certain percentage on like typical calls that they get in, what laws are related to those calls, and how to properly approach and de-escalate those calls. From the jump, they're just kind of like taught, hey man, this is how you protect yourself. If you think they got a gun, draw.
Yeah, it's like that's not. There's way more than that. Yeah, there's much more on your shoulders than just 6 months of some slapdash training,
right?
Just to get people on the streets to intimidate and terrorize African American people.
I don't want to get.
That's essentially what they're doing.
I don't want to get too far deep into the training rhetoric, like you said. But there are other videos like out on YouTube of ex-police or current police. Who are the I'll say small percentage of the quote unquote good cops or good guys on the force who talk about directions that they've gotten to either just take people in because of the color of their skin, or they've gotten directions to target certain neighborhoods just because they knew they could get away with it, which usually are predominantly black neighborhoods. And then on the other side of that, when you talk about police unions and everything, and this brotherhood mentality that they have, quote unquote, of if you try to be a good cop, they almost force you into just taking up the whole brotherhood mentality. even if it doesn't speak to you.
Yeah, they essentially, it's either they squeeze you out of the force by stifling your career so you never get any promotion,
putting you in danger,
putting you in more danger, or they kind of force you into a situation where you have to back one of them up, and then you're automatically kind of dirty.
Yeah.
So what happens is the very few, and when I say very few, I mean very few officers that do speak up, what ends up happening is that their lives are threatened.
Yeah, there's nothing to protect those cops because the unions are there to protect the most shadiest of shit that they could possibly do. That's why when you look back at George Floyd's film and people are telling him to get off of his neck, he's looking directly at that camera and he shifts his weight to that man's neck on that dominant knee and looks dead at that camera. The way he just casually
murdered someone is heartbreaking because it just shows how much hate exists for African Americans, and then you understand how little power in that moment we had. But I do think things are changing. And one of the big things is kind of like we're talking about with gun ownership.
And I want to make a transition statement, a multifaceted, multi-headed Hydra statement. First about how we look at ourselves and how we refer to ourselves in the African American communities. I personally, and me and you just had this discussion about referring to ourselves as black. That's something that's very Eurocentric that was placed on us to create this system of making us less than. And usually when someone refers to something as being black, like nobody, like the multitude, the diaspora of African descendants are variations of brown. There are some super dark brothers and sisters out there, but we're variations. Not one of us are black. There's some people who get close. But usually when you refer to a color, it's usually of something. When you refer to someone, you usually refer to them of their nationality or by locale. So I think when we refer to ourselves from here on out, we need to make a conscious effort of letting them know we're African American, or we consider ourselves Pan-African or Aboriginal American, if anybody wants to look that up. True. And to start, I don't want to add to what Terry Crews was talking about, but I do.
Oh God!
I do think we need to move different. I don't want to use his phrase of being better, because what he was trying to say in being better was different from what I'm saying, because I already know we're better. I already know we've historically.
What he was saying was complete horse crap.
Yeah,
because it's like, come on, bro.
Historically,
we're just telling people, we're asking people to stop killing us.
Right.
You going all the way into supremacy.
He's singing and dancing. And historically, we've done nothing but pull ourselves by our bootstraps. We've always,
this fool done try to make a jump to supremacy.
We countlessly, time and time again,
took the most strawmanist argument
as African Americans and taken nothing and turned it into a great amount of something, or turning something very little into a whole lot. If you look at the Jay-Z, if you look at LeBron, look at whoever, they've been able. Madam C.J. Walker. If you haven't seen the Octavia Spencer joint on Netflix, that joint was powerful. We just countlessly, time and time again, make those movements, and then stuff happens, like we get firebombed, we get assassinated, we get gentrified and moved out and pushed out through these sneaky laws or what have you. And we continually make that shift, change, do better. And then I have a theory based on this. And it's based off of history. It's based off of looking at these patterns. Just kind of like observing things that are happening now, things that have happened 10 years before, and then just looking at the overall history of Africans in Africa or Africans who have moved throughout Eurasia Peninsula. It's still Africa, but where Iraq and everything is, and throughout Asia. If you look at the Malaysians, if you look at Indonesia, if you look at Fiji, if you look at Samoas and everything, we Africans have moved throughout the world, right? And I think a lot of this is based on fear of the potential of Africans and their overall potential to be great. I think they innately know.
I'd agree. There's a continual and perpetual fear.
I think they innately know of our potential, meaning just to be great, just to like make industries work well. We could boost this economy easy if they just let us. Right? There's another podcast that I don't have referenced about somebody who was studying the amount of patents that were filed at the time of Tulsa and Black Wall Street and its like prominence, and how it was like hundreds of patents filed until they all got wiped out. And then since then, people were either scared to file patents or scared to move and to be excellent out of that fear of being hunted down. Their fear is different from our fear, because our fear is very real. Their fear is knowing that it's almost as if they're trying to run from the root. If you catch what I'm saying.
Yeah, it's like if everything was equal, we would not be worried about you asking for nothing. Mm-hmm. That's why this whole reparations thing is an issue for them. Yeah. Because if everything was on equal footing, if we had all the money you did, if we had a generational wealth you did, if we didn't have systemic racism,
in all reality, in all honesty,
we outpace you in mad
I'm
stuff.
gonna make this statement right now. All honesty, let's say we don't get reparations, which we most likely won't. But if you stop killing us, you give us the equality we ask for, and you give us the equity we ask for. And equity just means everything is on equal footing. You're not giving me anything extra because I'm black. But if I come in with the same resume as the next guy, I'm not getting hired because I'm black, and I'm not getting the job, double negative, because I'm black. I'm getting the job because I'm qualified. If you just give us that, man, watch us move.
Yeah, so don't even get me started with the whole that Black Lives Better. I was like, if this fool. Anyway.
Yeah. So moving on, about us African Americans and gun ownership. It's not a staple topic in our culture as a whole. There are some pockets, like people in Atlanta who, they pass guns down through their family and teach them about guns rights and everything. Texas, possibly Virginia. Actually, not possibly, in Virginia, but not, I don't think as much across the nation where there are black communities. There may or may not be guns in those communities, but not actively teaching them about guns rights, safety, passing that knowledge down in the family and everything. So I wanted to take a moment to have this discussion, on voice and I guess video, quasi video, with you, because we've had this discussion.
We're playing, so it's a video.
Yeah, we've had this discussion before. So I'm gonna start off with, I guess, our personal stances on guns on a personal level. You know what I'm saying? I hand it off to you, NERDSoul. What's your personal?
I've always been neutral about guns. Like, I mean, you know, I could have them, I could not have them.
Right.
I wouldn't consider myself like what some people say, like a gun nut,
Right.
where it's like they got like guns on guns on guns, like collectors guns, different color guns, chrome guns, black guns, gold guns, all types of rifles, like. I wouldn't, but I've always been neutral. Like, I can own one, I cannot own one. I was kind of in that space. Like, I've handled a gun before, I've shot a gun before, but I've never personally owned one. Like, went, I guess, to buy and, you know, register and all that stuff on my own. I've never done that.
Right.
I've shot, you know, rifles and stuff like out in the country, you know what I'm saying? But that's pretty much it.
My stance on guns is a little bit different. I'm conflicted. I continue to be conflicted because I have a core belief that humans on the basic level, I don't think we were supposed to ever witness an unnatural death, meaning by the hands of like one of us type of thing, like a killing or a homicide. Because I think subconsciously and mentally that does something to us that kind of disrupts who we are as a civilization.
Yeah,
I think guns, especially in this country, are a very careless instrument, where other countries have, you know, like Australia, for instance, where they just totally banned guns. And I'm not saying that's going to happen or necessarily needs to happen, because I'm sure there's a lot of people, like gun rights people, who may listen to this, but like, nah, that's just not going to happen. And I accept that, right? I personally never thought I would own a gun, but in these recent times, I have gone from heavily considering buying a gun to actively looking for concealed carry classes and already having the model of gun I want to purchase, and whatnot. And I usually, when it comes to quote unquote tools, I don't consider handguns or assault rifles tools. Like a hunting rifle is a tool for hunting, right? But those other guns are tools for killing. That's just a weapon.
Yeah, they serve no other purpose.
Yeah, that's just a weapon, period. It's a weapon that's easily used to take life, and I don't think life should be that minuscule to anybody at any time, really, to be honest. But at this point,
yeah, and I feel you on that.
You know,
I feel you on that.
At this point now, my mind has shifted to where I don't have an argument for it, because now that discussion has gone to, well, if they have them, we need them.
Yeah, because similar to what you're saying, you know, I'm kind of neutral. I can have one, I cannot have one. I'm not, you know, like in a rush to get one.
Right.
But like I said, when I saw that rally and I hit you up and you were like, yeah, I saw it. And then seeing more stuff where it's like, you can just be out chilling and someone pull up beside you with someone behind filming you, essentially entrapping you, pulling out a gun and killing you. I truly believe that situation would have went much differently if Ahmaud Arbery had a gun on him.
Right.
I also believe these situations of these black people mysteriously being lynched would go much differently if they had a weapon on them.
Right.
And when I say a weapon, I mean a handgun of some sort.
Yeah, for instance,
some open carry or concealed carry.
Yeah, there was a guy in Orlando, black guy, riding his bike, and a guy rolls up on him in a pickup truck and shoots dude in the head with a crossbow.
What?
Nothing
like
provoked about that. This was a little under a month ago in Florida. But like stuff like that. Like, man, I'm minding my business, dog. What did I do to you?
Yeah.
What?
And
Like you
with
have
these-
that much fear? Come on, man.
And the stress that African Americans are put under on a daily basis, just to go to the store. Like today, I went to the store, and I'm going to the store, and I'm literally
You on high alert?
on edge
Yeah.
because I don't know if someone up in here is going to act stupid.
Right. You on high
know what I'm
alert
saying?
for no reason. I just want to go get some food.
And black people are in a state of perpetual high alert, and I don't want my people to be in a state of high alert without having the tools to be able to protect and defend themselves.
And that doesn't even take it away. But it helps even the playing field, if you will.
Yes, because this isn't the stuff that we're seeing, like people just riding up beside you, jumping out of the car, or is it? How far are we from people coming and pulling you out of your house?
Mm-hmm. Oh, you mean like
how
the police just knock you, roll up in your house with guns?
Yeah. You know what I'm saying? How far are we from someone, doing that to someone out in a rural area?
Mm-hmm.
So for me, not only do I think that we should exercise our rights fully, I'd say that for a household, I would prefer you have 2 guns.
Right.
I would prefer you have a handgun and a shotgun.
That's
what I would prefer you.
I definitely think.
Now it depends on what you can handle.
Right.
You might. A shotgun is a lot, but usually, even if you miss, the noise from a shotgun will, in most cases, tell people not this time.
Right. You, whoever's listening, whether you're female or male, and your spouse, whether they are female or male, I think at least each of you should have a gun. At this point, it's like the Wild Wild West. I pray that you never have to use it. But speaking to our African American people who are listening, you are American citizens. It is your right. Educate yourselves and read up on this shit.
I would much rather see you in court because someone approached you at the park or at the grocery store or while you were on a jog, instead of seeing your picture on the nightly news because you're not here to speak for yourself because you were murdered by some fool that, I don't know, in their mind thinks they're the Punisher or something like that.
Yeah. And the creator of the Punisher is upset about that.
Yeah. Because the funny thing, honestly, the Punisher would most likely view the officers
talk about
the officers that
these dudes who probably don't even read comics,
they
son.
did to Eric Garner or Tamir Rice.
These guys don't even
or
read
George
comics.
Floyd or Amadou Diallo. The name Sandra Bland. The names go on and on and on. He would probably throw them into the same category or the same bucket that he throws mobsters and gangsters and pedophiles and everything into.
This is something else that pisses me
So
off.
I
It
doubt
has
he
nothing to
would
do
have
with race.
I doubt he would have much, how should you say, mercy for them.
Right. And like, if you had known anything about that symbol, that skull symbol that represents the Punisher, you would have half the knowledge to know that if a Punisher type person existed, he'd be out hunting y'all, hunting us.
Yeah.
Just saying. Read a comic book
And
stop stealing.
It honestly has happened a few times.
It has.
Where some ex-military dudes, I mean, art imitates light, you got Rambo, but there have been some ex-military dudes that have actually gone after local police because of the dumb
well, that's because they go in the military, they take an oath, and they uphold our national freedom as like the highest thing that they defend. So if they go overseas and they're in a war and they come back to find out that people are being terrorized in the streets by the people who are supposed to be upholding the law, he feels like, I took an oath, I took a stance
They almost feel compelled to do something.
Because that's what they were trained. That's how they were trained to think and operate. And so they feel like, yo, I got to do something. My people who I've been fighting for have been here fighting for their lives. In a war that they didn't start, in a war that they don't even know exists. This fabrication. But let's move on to what you can think about spending on a gun. If you don't know already, if you're looking at like a starter pistol, handgun, what have you, them joints is probably going to start a base model like $250, $300. Most likely it can easily tip up like $4 to $5 at a beginner gun, depending on what you're looking for. But it's not a cost that you would consider what's the word I'm looking for? I guess a priority, because usually our people are focused on paying the bills, putting food on the table, keeping happy home. I would throw this in as your happy home investment. It's an investment.
Yeah. And also remember, you can also get guns from pawn shops. Well, depending on your locality. I know in like Virginia you can, California you can, and those are the only ones that I really care about because of the two places I live. but in most cases you can get secondhand owned guns. I mean, you still have to go through your paperwork and stuff, but they can be a little cheaper there. But you have to. This is something that, like you said, is kind of like a necessity for the home now. Right.
It's an investment. Look at it as a home investment. So whatever. I would say savings that you may or may not have for your home, start saving, get your money right, and get at least one for now, and then for your spouse, get another.
Definitely. There's enough out there for you to get in the $250 to $300 range to feel safe and secure, and then of course, without going any further, that you can kind of like handle on your own. That doesn't have to be too big and gaudy and everything, because you're not going for looks. You're not going for looks. You're not going for a size. You're going for something that has stopping power, and that's it. You ain't got to get no Desert Eagle.
Nah, because likelihood. First of all, you're gonna spend too much, especially if this is your first time experience with a gun. Being that we're both from Virginia, we've shot many different guns, gone to their cousins, property to shoot where there's nobody for miles and miles and miles, and or a range, like a legitimate range where where other people publicly are. Desert Eagle is not a first time gun owner gun.
I wouldn't consider that. Please
do not. You go most likely hurt yourself than hurt somebody else.
Something like a solid 9mm, like maybe a Glock or something like that.
Glock's a solid piece of hardware.
Because a 9mm bullet is big enough to have some stopping power. Something like a 22 is not. That it's not gonna stop everyone.
No. And when you do get this gun, when we talk about the responsible part, get certified, learn about gun safety. I would say do that first before anything. So before you buy the gun, you get certified in either an open carry, concealed carry, whatever, but learn about gun safety, learn about how to take care of your gun, clean it, and everything, how to secure it either at home or on yourself, either when you're out in public or just if you just have it on you at home, how to make sure that it's on you securely and properly so you don't, discharge on yourself.
Yeah, because there are a lot of accidental discharges. Right. So, being able to clean your gun, disassemble and reassemble your gun, knowing it's a tool, just like any, you know what? All right, treat a gun like you would your safety around a table saw.
Yeah.
Very similar. It's a tool. It's a powerful tool. It's a necessary tool, but it can be very dangerous. You know what I'm saying? So, same kind of sensibility. You want to know when it's unloaded, know when it's loaded, make sure that there's nothing in the chamber, stuff like that.
How to check if it's loaded.
Yeah, like make sure you have removed the clip, emptied the chamber, all of that stuff before, you want to do like a dry fire or something like that. You just you want to be as safe as possible because accidents do happen.
Yeah.
And you want to mitigate that because you want to be safe and be protected and not incur any kind of like unnecessary damage, like shooting yourself in the leg or something like that.
Yeah, and usually these gun safety certifications or carry certifications usually cost about like $50, which isn't bad.
Yeah.
The next part of the safety part is probably training, even though that's you should train to know how to use your gun, be comfortable with it, work on your aim, make sure you know how to aim. Don't be doing the whole one eye closed, body to side thing. Like that's like you're never gonna have time for that.
Don't be trying to do the
like trying to shoot a fly off of like an elephant's ear.
Murtaugh.
Yeah, don't get the tongue out. Train with the gun. There's plenty of training from where we're from and where you're currently located, NERDSoul. But for other people, depending on what state you're in, I know some northern states may not have as much as some of the southern states or coastal or Midwest states. Midwest states probably got like mad gun training facilities.
But just knowing how to clear, basically knowing how to clear your holster, fire safely, place back in your holster, that type of stuff.
Right.
Like you said, train. You need to shoot and fire many rounds.
Yeah.
You have to be able to, be comfortable and like have the feeling of the recoil of your gun.
We're not saying you gotta be Rambo either. Like you ain't gotta be like the quickest draw, but just know how to use your gun. So when the time comes, if the time comes, hopefully the time don't come. You can do what you gotta do.
You gotta be able to.
NERDSoul Light is wilding.
Yeah, NERDSoul Light is not happy right now.
Okay.
He don't like people when they don't have their gun safety. You know what I'm saying? He don't like it when they don't got their gun safety on point.
Yeah.
So you know what I'm saying? You gotta keep your gun safety on lock.
Part of being active, think about possibly joining a gun association or a gun club. Usually these gun clubs have like other benefits attached to them, not just receiving a newsletter and just knowing a couple guys who also shoot guns or have a gun. One that I was looking into, shout out to NAAGA, which stands for National African American Gun Association, which I didn't know existed until about a month ago.
Me neither, man. And I'm glad I found out about it. I was like, word up.
Yeah, and that actually makes me feel a lot better as an African American. I think
because the NRA does not care about your African American or your black.
Philando Castile was a good example of that.
Yes.
Because he was an NRA member and he was a card carrying, certified gun owner, and we don't need to go down that story. You know the story. But NAAGA is for us, by us, FUBU. And since their formation, they currently have like 30K members plus, which is, I think it's huge. It could be more, but outside of the NRA, I think that's dope. And chances are most of those people look like us. There are some like other members who are not African American who has joined. But for all you ladies out there who have been apprehensive or who may be apprehensive about gun ownership, 60% of that 30K is female. So
that's what's up. The sisters out there.
Yeah.
60%, that's a lot.
Yeah.
So, yo, sisters out there, get trained, get ready. Get ready, prepare yourself, prep yourself, and just be safe.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Be protected. Because the last thing we need is another instance of something like Ahmaud Arbery. You know what I'm saying?
Right. And the NAAGA is one that I was definitely potentially going to be joining. Most likely I will be joining. There are other gun clubs out there that we'll list in the description below, but there's a Huey P. Newton gun club, which is named after Huey P. Newton of the Black Panther Party. I'm not sure how many members they have. I read their sort of not mission statement, but laws of, I guess, how to act, basically, and it's very Bushido-esque. It's very honorable and we don't just be pulling weapons on people, and you got to be responsible, and if you're gonna be a part of this gun club, recognize that you represent the Huey P. Newton gun club, and don't be acting a fool, because we will check you. And they didn't say it exactly like that, but it basically reads like that. And then there's a Socialist Rifle Association. Their logo actually looks super dope. But they're more
it's true though.
Super inclusive. So African Americans, gays, LGBTQT, all the other letters, they very much invite you to be a part of that association, to learn about gun ownerships yourselves, no matter what part of the spectrum you fall into. As far as that's concerned, you have your rights to please practice. And I want to have an honorable mention about the United States Concealed Carry Association, which I just found out about today. This is actually kind of dope. And the only reason I found out about this is because I was on the NAAGA site grabbing the links for you, NERDSoul. If you sign up for a membership through them, USCA, the United States Concealed Carry Association, and get trained and everything, you get a free year membership for NAAGA. So you kind of get two memberships at one time. I might be going that route because the Concealed Carry Association also includes legal advice and representation, online training and in-person training, ongoing video training, magazine subscriptions, and some more stuff. But the legal advice and representation part is what hit me on that one. So the same way where Philando Castile, for instance. But I don't know exactly what the NRA has in comparison to this, but they should have stepped out if he was truly a card carrying member of the NRA.
Yeah.
Should have stepped out in front, had some legal representation for his wife and his child, and defended him. Well, if you're a Concealed Carry Association member, they do that for you, on top of being part of NAAGA, who would most likely provide some type of representation for you as well. So it's a double down, just in case you get caught up in any altercations or what have you. So definitely check out those links. Read up, educate yourself.
Word up. That's dope. This definitely what's up, because it's when it comes to this, a lot of times there's a lot of people that are interested. They're looking around and they're like, yo man, it's overwhelming.
It's a lot if you don't
kind of having this stuff, knowing oh, there's people that's like me. You know what I'm saying? There might be a certain a black owned gun range around you, or a black owned gun store. So it's you have that comfort, because here in LA, up in Burbank, there is
Redstone?
Was it Redstone?
I think it's Redstone.
I'm trying to think.
Yeah.
Redstone Firearms. The young lady who kind of co-founded that place said when she decided to get a gun, she went to a gun store, like a white-owned gun store, and she was standing around and standing around and standing around. Nobody was serving her. And she said nobody came up to her until about 45 minutes or an hour into her like just standing around the shop.
Right.
So having that comfort of coming in with people that, you know, you can feel like you're not going to have that guard up against you, you know what I'm saying, where you can feel relaxed and being able to like either learn or ask questions or even have a conversation about maybe like what route you might take. It's a lot easier and a lot better. And, you know what I'm saying, you know, whether they're kind of like educating you or just informing you, something like that, you don't have to worry about feeling like an outsider at places like that. Yeah. You know what I'm saying?
And NAAGA also has like on their page links to, if you're looking for African American owned like gun shops and training, they do have links depending on what state you're in. You can search for what state you're in and see what stores are available around you. And if there are stores maybe that they don't know of, I'm sure you can easily reach out to them and say, hey, you know, this is black owned. I don't think they necessarily have to be NAAGA members as well. I think they just represent, you know, black owned businesses, just to say, hey, you got an outlet.
Because, you know what I'm saying, you got to let the dollar circulate, son.
Yeah. Yeah, because our dollar don't circulate.
For real. Like,
our dollar don't circulate.
I mean, if you can, you might as well buy, you know what I'm saying, go ahead and buy that gun from a black-owned gun shop. Or if you're going to go shoot, go find a black gun range that you can shoot at. You know what I'm saying? Keeping those dollars in our neighborhoods and, you know what I'm saying, in a way where you're not going out of your way to buy something you would never normally buy. But just buy the normal things you would buy. Just find a black vendor that does it, or African American vendor that does it. You know what I'm saying?
We definitely got to start moving different. We've done it before historically, as far as like moving different and supporting each other and everything. And time again, you know, we've already said this at the earlier part of the podcast, but I think we just need to hold on to that momentum, keep doing that. Keep protesting as well,
definitely,
to get these changes, and we just need to keep going forward. And as much as possible, don't let what's going on right now get erased, because they will try to mask it over whatever the newest headline is or whatever. And even historically, I don't want none of this stuff to get erased. We got to know for the next generation and the generation after that, so to make sure we don't end up repeating history like it's done before. We've somehow got to keep holding that up.
Yeah, definitely, because they will try to get you lost in the cycle. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? They will try to get you lost in like, oh, well, you know, nobody's protesting anymore. Nobody cares anymore. It's like, no, we're still fighting.
Still out there. Yeah. So, and then our last, I guess, point is, if you have a gun, it's usually of no use to you if it just sits at home in a safe, which you should have, just in case you're out and about and something does go down. Carry it on you if your state allows. I don't know what every other state's laws or policies are. I know Virginia, I think California, you can carry open carry. I don't know. I know Virginia definitely is concealed and open.
I don't think we have open carry. We do have concealed carry, though.
Okay, well, if you can, and if you feel comfortable, and feeling comfortable usually comes with the training and being like, yeah, I think I can carry this around to make sure I'm protected and those who are around me are protected. Yeah, that's all the points I got.
Yeah, because California, Florida, Illinois, New York, and South Carolina, and DC prohibit any open carry. But they do have concealed carry.
Okay.
And the good thing is that there's a lot of places that allow like transfer, meaning like your license to conceal carry will transfer somewhere else.
Yeah.
Like for instance, your license for concealed carry in California transfers to Virginia as well. They recognize each other's like license.
I don't think it works backwards though.
Like, oh, you mean like Virginia?
Yeah,
being,
Virginia to California. I don't think they recognize it, but from California to Virginia, they do.
Ah, word. I had to check, but yeah, I know. I definitely checked for the Cali to VA because I was like, let me just make sure. You know what I'm saying? I don't want no dumb stuff.
Right. But
yeah, man. Like, look that up so you can keep it on you because you're right. It. You know, when you're at the game or at a park or at the grocery store, or the library, wherever you're at, being at home in your safe.
Yeah, it's not really.
I mean, at least be in the car, man. At least be in the car.
I forgot the comedian's name, but he was from the UK. He was talking mad trash about Americans and gun use. I think I said this to you before, but he definitely spelled out some scenarios and. It was hilarious and it was realistic and it kind of like showed a mirror up to ourselves about it. I agree with them wholeheartedly, but nothing beats the argument if they got it, we need it.
It's like, look,
that's just where it comes down.
Yeah, keeping guns and the gun culture can be crazy and can be stupid, but bottom line is the way they starting to act now, I ain't got time.
Yeah.
Like I ain't got the time. Cause I would much rather see my brother or sister defend themselves and the decision they made in court over seeing their picture, you know what I'm saying? Like their high school picture or their Facebook picture on the news.
Yeah. Self-preservation.
Because someone decided to film them and trap them, and run up on them with a rifle.
Mm-hmm. So definitely be careful. Keep your head on a swivel. Educate yourselves. We really just felt this topic was important because I'm sure a lot of people were wondering, and a lot of people are getting real inquisitive nowadays, especially because of that high anxiety of just being able to go to a store and the fact that it seems as if being African American or a person of color, when you're out in public, that you have to be more trained of how to interact with the police than the police are doing their job, which they're supposed to be apparently professionals and yada yada yada. But yeah, be careful, y'all.
Yeah, y'all. So have we exorcised the demons?
I don't know if we exercise the demons, but we definitely put some knowledge out into the air.
You know what I'm saying? So, guys, protect yourselves. Before we get out of here, KAIZER, tell them what up.
Yo, KAIZER, owner of KURO brand. We got some new stuff that's about to come out. Coronavirus has definitely put a hold on some stuff. Can't really take pictures of people unless they're joined from real far away. But be on the lookout. That stuff is coming soon. NERDSoul always be hitting you with the freshness. Tell them about yourself.
Yo, NERDSoul, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, all them places. Of course, podcast if you want to get your listen on, Spotify music if you want to get your jams on, but YouTube is the main hub. Hit that subscribe, hit that like button. You can hit that dislike button, but if you do, I'm gonna send Connie Bernard after you, and she probably gonna be shopping on all your laptops and running up your bills. But yeah, Connie Bernard needs to resign. The end. But with that said, guys, from us to you, thanks for chilling with us. Thanks for hanging, and peace.
Peace out.